So good afternoon, everybody. There's a couple more people still joining, but I think we'll get started. This is Hilary Gosher. I'm a partner here at Insight, and I'm going to be joined today by two of the CMOs at Insight's portfolio companies to discuss the subject of effective sales and marketing collaboration. This is the second in our six-part webinar series. As you can see, we've got a couple more to come. I will say, though, that the date for September 30th will change because one of the companies pointed out, and rightly so, that September the 30th is the last day of the quarter. And if we're talking about sales enablement, that would not be the day to be, the last day of the quarter would not be the day to be holding that webinar. So we'll probably push that out a week, which would push the final one out a week as well. So suffice today, our presenters are Maria Caraballosa from Drilling Info, she's the CMO there, and Denise Brody from Workforce Software. Both of them are among the best marketers in our portfolio, and so I've asked them to share broadly with you in the six-part webinar series the series of best practices that they deploy in their teams. The first webinar a week ago was around the metrics that they use to manage, and that webinar PowerPoint is available for those of you who have not yet looked at it. Today's conversation is around how do you collaborate effectively with sales and marketing, and what's the rationale and reason to do so, and what are the benefits. And so with that, I'm going to hand over to Maria, who's going to begin and talk about some of the ways in which her marketing team collaborate with sales. And then we'll pass from there to Denise, and we'll take follow-up questions thereafter. We expect this to last about 30 minutes with follow-up questions afterwards. So if you do have any questions, please type them in the webinar question area, and I'll be able to read them out so that you can get some answers afterwards. So I'm passing to Maria, and she'll begin talking about the sales and marketing collaboration in her own organization. Maria?
Thank you very much, Hilary, and thanks everyone for joining. It's a pleasure to be with everyone and get a chance to speak about some of the things that we've got here. The first thing that I thought in terms of introducing the topic of collaboration across the organization is things that we've all experienced, right? So in speaking with a CEO, how many times have you heard the CEO say, we spend a ton of money on marketing, but I have no idea what we get for it, right? That's a problem, but it happens. It happens all the time. For sales, they'll say, we don't get any leads from marketing, or the leads that we get aren't very good. I can't use them. And then marketing says, well, but we send you a ton of leads, but you don't call them. And then some salesperson might say, wait, did we just launch something? Is there any info that I can get on that? I didn't know anything about that. And some other salesperson might say, wait, I didn't know we were doing a customer event. Are we doing a customer event? Don't call my customers. And so I think that all of us, I personally have experienced every one of these, and it just is totally suboptimal. And so these are the things that we've got to fix in order for us to have a really optimal situation here. When I talk about why is it so important to have collaboration and alignment between sales and marketing? Well, the short answer is that collaboration between sales and marketing equals growth. If you don't have an optimized sale and marketing engine, a sales and marketing machine that works together, whether it is in the best of markets, in the highest growth areas, you're going to leave money on the table every single day, all day long. I've seen it where either marketing is doing a fantastic job and sales is not following up, or sales has a fantastic field sales machine and marketing is not delivering. So if either one of those is not optimized and they're not aligned, you're just it's just a missed opportunity all around. And the reason I can say that is because what we're experiencing here, I've had the opportunity to work with a terrific sales organization, and the collaboration between us is fantastic. And we are you may have heard, we serve the oil and gas industry. We are a SaaS company to oil and gas companies. And the oil and gas industry, you might have heard, is going through a pretty significant downturn, the worst downturn in the industry since the 1980s. And even in the midst of this downturn, the oil and gas industry has lost 50% of its value. We are continuing, Drilling Info is continuing to grow new business and upgrades at double digits at company record levels, even in the midst of this downturn. That's not to say we're not having other issues with retention and churn because of what's going on in the industry, but new business and upgrades at company record levels. When oil was at 100, we weren't growing this much. So how cool is that? That this fantastic engine is delivering this. And if you ask our Chief Revenue Officer and you ask me, the reason for that is because of this partnership that we have. So for me, the four things that are super, super important is to make sure we're aligned, that we identify our goals, common goals, and we figure out how we're going to achieve them. What are the processes, the metrics that we're going to use? We identify particularly demand generation goals in complete alignment between sales and marketing. And then in terms of, we have service level agreements between the two of us. We agree on what to expect from each of us and by when. So what we're going to deliver and what they are going to do and on what timely basis. Measuring everything is super important. And the big insight I would say here is that there has to be a commitment to consistent governance on both sides. And by that I mean that both on the marketing side and on the sales side, there's a really strong commitment to ongoing granular management of all of our activities. And so I can talk to this later as well, but we have several meetings every week at different levels that all look at various portions of the demand generation engine and the funnel and how to manage the funnel. And we both attend from our working teams to our management teams on both sides, and then our Chief Revenue Officer and myself attend some of these meetings. So there's commitment on both sides to consistently manage this thing. And it's super important that both of us are there, because if we start missing some of those meetings, it just kind of falls apart. And then making sure that we've got credibility and trust, that we build that across the organization. You've got to have super strong people, strong best-in-class processes, people, and deliver on all of your commitments. And that is part of the credibility and trust that we've got to have with each other, right? And that's on both sides as well. So a little bit of a view as to the things, the areas where we collaborate. Demand gen, by far, I would say, is key. And as Hillary mentioned, we're going to be doing other seminars. We'll do a deep dive on demand generation, but just to give you some ideas, the things that we look at, the things that we measure. We develop our goals jointly, joint service level agreements, the planning for demand generation and the campaigns, how we forecast the leads that we will generate according to what campaign. We do that jointly. Identifying what profiles we're going to go after on a specific campaign. The promotion of the campaigns and when that's going to happen. How we measure and perform funnel inspection. I was kind of talking about that. That's critical. Looking at that funnel jointly and looking at how you adjust, what's working, what's not working. Field marketing, very, very important, as the sales guys are actually doing company meetings, customer meetings, activities, providing all that support and alignment. And then robust metrics, measure everything. You've got to be able to show the progress and the metrics, so that's key as well. So deep dive another day, but that's just a view on demand generation. On almost equally important, I would say, product marketing and sales enablement. So it's super important for the sales guys to be aligned with us and with the product team on what the roadmap is, the product roadmap. And then for product marketing to deliver really robust go-to-market strategies and share that on a regular cadence with sales, to do product launches, training. Every time we do a key initiative or a key launch, we've got materials that we provide to the sales team. We do training on a regular basis and provide those materials that they can use to go engage with customers. And then we also deliver the customer-facing materials that we launch to the field. So that whole sales enablement thing, that's huge as well. And then business intelligence, that's another really big piece for us. The funnel reporting and inspection, that's a really big deal. We devote a lot of time and energy to that, and every week we deliver, it might be overkill, but every week we deliver a 40-page detailed report on the funnel. And that is anything from the weekly trends, how the quarter is going, how salesperson by salesperson, where are the MQLs, the sales accepted leads, the opportunities that have been opened, et cetera, et cetera. That's a detailed inspection that we do every week, and it's working very, very well. Account reporting, competitive intelligence, market intelligence, those are all things that our BI, we have a super strong BI team, and those are all things in which we work very closely. When we first introduced that BI team to Drilling Info, they weren't quite sure what the purpose of that was, and now that team has become one of the most popular teams at Drilling Info. They can't keep up with the demand from sales on information that they need from that team. And it's super important to be able to support sales with that. Just to give you an example, because again, we'll do a deeper dive when we do the demand gen session a few weeks from now. But this is a typical marketing influenced funnel for us. This is the quarterly view. And this is a sample, not actuals, but this is about what we try to shoot for. We shoot for roughly 3,000 leads, MQLs, on a quarterly basis. We look for a conversion rate to SALs of anywhere between 20 to 25%. So we try to hit that. Then that tells you how many SALs you have. And then we look for a conversion rate of about 40 to 45%, somewhere in there. Anywhere in there is good. We try to overachieve, obviously. And then that tells us how many opportunities we've created, the open pipe that we've created that month, what is the open pipe that we're carrying from previous quarters, the open and lost, the win dollars, the close rates, and the average order value. And we look at this weekly, we look at the quarterly trends, and obviously this is a quarterly view. But it's just an example. We'll deep dive on this, how we get here, how we plan for it, et cetera, et cetera. But I just wanted to kind of whet your appetite to what that session will be a few weeks from now. So again, for us, all of this close collaboration has meant that in a very, very difficult industry downturn, we continue to grow new logos and upgrades at company record levels. So both our CRO and I are proud of that, and we completely support the notion that this is because of the close partnership that we have. So for me, again, the big key takeaways are: make sure you're aligned on your goals, make sure you've got SLAs, you plan together, measure everything, and have wonderful teams, best-in-class processes, deliver on your commitments, and that allows that wonderful collaboration that really, at the end of the day, equals growth for the company. And that is it for me. With that, I can turn it over to Denise, so that, Denise, you can start on your part. And that should be going over to you right now, Denise.
Awesome. Thanks, Maria. So, great introduction, Maria. I think that absolutely when you look at the success on, the revenue and at Workforce, we call this R3M, a rapidly repeatable revenue machine. And that doesn't tie with just marketing and sales, it ties to everybody in our company. And we've actually even had t-shirts made around that. So coming into the business, and technically it was about 10 months ago, so around this time, the marriage between sales and marketing was absolutely broken. There was 5 missed quarters of revenue between our lead of sales as well as the previous marketing lead. They were not even talking. I would say probably ended in a bitter divorce here. So, the marriage was in trouble, and pretty much the primary demand generation was through events. There was really no joint KPIs and goals between the teams. Marketing did not take account into any of the sales priorities. They were really focused on, long text deliverables and content purely. They did not also work with sales to pull in what I would call the field intelligence from sales, right? So that we can better adapt the messaging. We can come in and create deal specific content and all of the good stuff that needs to enable the process. And marketing was very much viewed as an order taker. So anytime there was a request, sales would send it over, but it was very one directional communication. And because of that, this then led into a whole cascade of issues, right, with limited communications on both sides, as well as a not official, I would say, I'd call it cadence with sales. So what do we do in order to fix this marriage? I kind of joke about it is, we went to joint counseling, right? We looked at, 4 big buckets for us, which is to come in and actually define KPIs. And, it's also good when you're the new person coming in as well, because you're starting with a clean slate. So it was good to sit with our lead of sales and say, hey, let's define some joint KPIs and goals. Let's look at some quick win for joint projects that we could work on together, because there was no way to undo all of the history within, the 9 or 10 months. We had to have some, joint projects initially to build the trust. We looked at marketing integrating into everything that sales did, whether it's the priorities around revenue or big deals or coming in to really look at the overall business and align with sales. And then the last part is we agreed on an ongoing cadence and a consistent one, so that there's communications for both directions. So I would say that the joint counseling really set us in the right direction when it comes to the collaboration of our teams. You may have remembered, if you were on the last webinar, some of these joint KPIs. So we looked at, the number of qualified leads that we would get together. We would also look at the value, and from the time of the last 9 to 10 months, it was also shrinking the pipeline from 12x to a 6x, so that we could get better qualified leads. It wasn't just about a number, which is always a transition for sales, right? Because they want more and more leads, but I was really pushing around on the marketing handshake. Let's get you less, but qualified leads. There was also the additional measurement of tying everything from brand to cash. So this ending up to cash was really important, so that everyone in marketing, whether they touch digital or they were a graphics designer, they would actually have an ARR number that was also tied with sales. And then in our structure within Workforce, we also have all the business development managers or inside sales. And we decided to move this, I would say, after, we went to counseling together, agreed on the joint KPIs. And at the beginning of 2016, after the trust was already built, we came in and we moved the inside inside sales or the BDMs into the marketing umbrella, because what they were doing is helping to take the top of the funnel jointly with campaigns, and then as the funnel was progressing, then they could actually call in and transition some of these to band qualified leads. So the BDMs also sit in our umbrella. They have a target for the enterprise AEs of 3 band qualified leads a month, and then for the mid-market it's also 4 band qualified leads a month for both of those specific AE profiles. And then there is also revenue tied to that from a BDM perspective, right? And of course, we wanted to look at how do we drive more web presence as well as consumption of content through the social channels. So, we agreed on a content consumption piece, as well as 40% of the opportunities being generated by marketing. And then our big focus in the beginning of 2016, as we were setting the KPIs, was really to shift the marketing mix. As mentioned, the primary issue was at the beginning was that we had 90 events, and keep in mind we're about a 500 person company. We have 2 people doing events, so 90 events spread through the year is a lot for our size. So we cut that by a third, and we came in and we really wanted to shift the marketing mix from the 40% or 60% of events to 40% events, and then really get the rest of it through the digital. And you can see now it's actually on the other side. At the beginning of Q1, I think we're only 7% of the events generated leads as well. So I think that the initial setup on the KPIs was critical, so that everyone felt that between sales and marketing, each side has the agreed stakes in the ground, as well as the goals and the target for the year. You probably also remember the slide. We split the team organizationally as well. So there was an organizational restructuring of the team to better support sales, so that there would be a lead for digital, there'd be a lead for events. There is a central, content calendar with feedback, by the way, from sales to help with some of the prioritization around some of the content. And then, we also restructured the whole external communication. We didn't really have an AR/PR function that was all ad hoc. So we formalized that process. And then, as mentioned, we moved the business development managers or inside sales into the marketing umbrella. So just a few things that we did beyond the KPI. So again, the first part was building the joint KPIs. The second part was really coming in and looking at joint projects. How do we start to build trust by working on some of the joint projects? The first missing gap was really that there was no competitive and market intelligence, and there was stuff that came from analyst community for research, but it was 20 to 50 pages and it wasn't being consumed. So first thing we did was we came in and we looked at what is the focus around the market. We went to the field and said, where are your priorities as part of looking at competitive intelligence where you're competing in some key deals? So we started to pull the competitive playbook. And by the way, the names are a little bit wiped out here on purpose, but you can actually see we looked at everything from our biggest competitor to doing, as mentioned, you tie in the analyst research plus the field intelligence. So each time we would compile against a competitor, we go out and we interviews against especially the lost deals, because you find out more from losing a deal than you do, winning a deal. So it really helped us to build some of the trust. And today we continue to build on the CMI playbook and adding the competitors, and we're constantly getting, sometimes we'll even write some of the bullet points that they can use on some of the deals as ad hoc research and work as well. So starting to build the trust with the CMI playbook. The other piece is that when you look at, the other piece of integrating marketing into sales, right? We took everything from the demand generation side, and again, shifting it to events. We put together for the biggest competitor a win-back program. So we went through We actually interviewed quite a few of the salespeople. We put together a whole entire campaign against this particular competitor. And from there, we were able to pilot with a handful of reps initially, and then we rolled out the full campaign. So we didn't go out and just say, hey, here's the campaign that we're rolling out for the quarter. We actually did the pilot to gain the trust as well. So again, being able to do this jointly with the business development team or inside sales, as well as marketing. And we then rolled out first in North America and then phased it out into EMEA and then over to APJ. We also did not do a big bang rollout when we pulled together this pilot for the campaign. So this was another way to gain the trust as far as working on some of the joint projects together. Here's another example of some of the priorities, right? Sales also had quite a bit of a need to go out and work on some deal support related activities. So we were working on one of the key deals for a gambling and resort company. And we took all of their profiles. We created this cool poster that they could take jointly with one of our partners. And then from there, they were able to reuse this. I think this has been reused at least on 6 other deals within that particular industry. So again, encouraging the sales team to really work with marketing as a partnership to fine-tune not only the messaging, but also make it specific and make this specific to, account-based marketing, as well as some of the deal support pieces that we've been working on. So again, just another example here that you can see into collaborating effectively with the sales arm. This has been a huge success for us. We had inherited during this time a dormant customer program that sat there for 5 years. It didn't really have the administration. So we came in and we rolled out the customer appreciation program. Very simple. The customer literally signs up, and you can see in the background a one-pager. We then put in all the administrative stuff within Salesforce. We let them sign up. And by the way, it's a give and get for our customers as far as, they come in and they take a reference call or do a video, and in turn, they're getting and redeeming points. We just had one of our customers redeem after 3 months with us doing a bunch of sales calls and references, about 80,000 points, and they were able to add some reporting stuff that they wanted and get a day's worth of consulting. So again, this creates a great partnership with sales because we do the first announcement when we win a deal, but we're nurturing the customer and working with sales on the overall, customer references. And that way, when there is an AE who needs to speak to a reference in a specific industry that may have been, where we beat a specific competitor, and by the way, they need some type of content, we know where all of those sit, and the customer appreciation program has been a great addition as part of the alignment to sales. The last piece is really for the communication, right? So how do you create this ongoing communication? It's a little bit labor intensive, I have to say, and you have to sign this, but we decided to take something so simple as like a marketing newsletter to start out as having the communication to sales, as well as, by the way, to the rest of the company. So every employee gets a copy of the marketing newsletter. And with this, what we try to do is we come in and, we'll give the latest updates of what's going on. Recently you probably heard, we acquired Workplace, so they can read some of this. We have analyst research that we put on. We have all types of content we publish out, but there's a rigor around this. So that's the first day after a quarter ends, we all sit onto QBRs for almost 3 full days, and they're all remotely. And with that, marketing presents. We sit on all of the QBRs and pipeline reviews. We do a monthly detailed pipeline review also with the lead of sales as part of the cadence. I'm doing a one-on-one with the sales lead as well when it comes to all of the informal or official updates where there's tied to a specific KPI. We do bi-weekly calls with each one of the regions where There's everyone from, global to field marketing to also the BDM lead, and then the regional lead for the sales side so that we can get plugged and aligned to each one of the regions. And as mentioned, we really use the marketing newsletter as a vehicle to communicate out to sales as well as the entire company. And then little things that you may not even notice, like, there's a little link here that says the content snapshot. By the way, all of our content they can get immediately as part of that link. It's updated and refreshed on an ongoing basis. So again, if you look at kind of what I reviewed here, what are some of the key takeaways, right? Making what I call the work marriage between sales and marketing work. It's, as mentioned, one, having the defined KPIs and goals together. Two, taking some of the joint projects, whether you're going to create a CMI playbook or you work on, a joint sales overview deck, whatever that is, to build the initial trust. Being able to also work on areas that help drive sales revenue. As I mentioned, at Workforce, we are very much about the R3M, which is the rapidly repeatable revenue machine. And as Maria mentioned, the turnaround in the business has been, since the marriage of sales has worked, we are now off of 3 consecutive quarters of making our number after 5 consecutive quarters of missed numbers. So it's been a major handshake and transition in the business and really push for the overall growth. And then, as you probably just saw, just the ongoing consistent cadence of that communication, whether it's bi-weekly or monthly. And I think you'll have to figure out what works in your organization. But you should make it official. Every week I get on the phone with the head of sales and we have 30 minutes and we walk through all of the topics we're working on. And sometimes we'll just forward stuff to each other as an FYI as part of the handshake. And I would have to say this is probably one of the happiest work marriages I've been in as part of, leading marketing and having the tie with the sales lead. So with that, we'll turn it over to questions.
Thanks, Maria and Denise. So the first question that we have is a question for both of you. And so maybe we'll start with Maria first, but the question was, what is your ratio of marketers to salespeople? And I guess, another way of phrasing that is, kind of how does the marketing budget potentially compare to the sales budget, or how do you think about, having sufficient marketing power to support the sales needs?
Wow, great question. Actually, here at Drilling Info, the marketing budget is roughly, or if you look at sales and marketing combined, marketing is about 20% of that spend, and sales is about 80% of that spend. Right now, we have 18 marketers here at Drilling Info, and sales. I think we've got in the 30s of salespeople, but I'm not 100% sure. It's shifted a little bit lately.
Yeah. I think also, Maria, it's not just, I think your quota-carrying reps are around 30, but then there's also sales support as well. So if you take the whole sales function with all the sales support, there's a lot more people in sales.
Oh, a lot, by far, a lot more. I mean, I think you're right, Hillary. I think if you take the sales support people, and by the way, here at Drilling Info, and in case you want to dive into it later, the lead qualification team sits in sales. So yeah, if you look at that, sales is probably all in, probably 4 or 5x what marketing is in terms of people.
Yep. Denise?
Yeah, so on the number wise, we're about 70 people globally on the sales side, and I would include all the sales support as part of that, including myself as well as the BDMs and the field marketing, global marketing. We've got about 27 people. And then very close to Maria, I would say we're about 80-20. But the other piece is even the alliances portion that reports up to sales. We actually do a joint review of the overall budget and the plans, even though it may sit in a separate budget. So, and we support partner marketing as well as part of the function. but we also make sure from a budget perspective, everything is reviewed, and that's also part of, aligning to the KPIs.
That's helpful. So Denise, you have 27 people in marketing. How many of those are the BDMs, the lead qualifiers who call up?
Yes, so the lead qualifiers out of that is 14. So we technically have 13 people, including myself, in marketing. And that's with the acquisition, by the way. That is not without, that is after we had pulled 3 people over from the acquisition.
Got it. And Maria, could you talk a little bit about the reason why you don't have the lead qualification callers in your group, why they sit in sales? Was there philosophical or historical reason around that? I mean, I've seen it done both ways. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Just curious as to how you guys think about it.
Absolutely. It was historically done that way, and frankly, I was perfectly okay with leaving it there. I feel like when marketing develops a lead or finds a lead, if we also qualify it and then we send it over, then sales can always say, this still doesn't work for us. But if we send over a lead, and we always try to send very good quality leads, but if we send over a lead and they qualify it, then they own it. And so, they own the performance of that lead from the moment they get it. And so that was my point of view of, I really had no problem in leaving it there. And by the way, here at Drilling Info, we have 5 lead qualifications folks on the sales side.
Got it. That's helpful. We had another question that came through, and the question is, when you think, and it's for both of you, so Denise, why don't you go first? When you think about marketing budgets, do you look at the marketing budget as a percentage of the new revenue that you're getting this year, or percentage of total revenue that you came into the year with? How do you think about the percentage of marketing budget overall? And then there's a follow-up to that, but we'll start with that.
Yeah, I would love for it to be the total revenue, but what I inherited was just a flat budget. And here's the interesting part. We have better qualified leads. We have a bigger impact on ARR. We had if you remember from the last webinar, we've also restructured the website, content, everything. I think in just the 6 months of having a product marketing person on and really focus on gutting the content, we now have 83 pieces of content that we have gutted, and that includes everything that's tough from videos to simple things like data sheets and re-messaging most everything we have. What's been very interesting in the process is I've not had to fight to get any additional budget, because we're actually 30% under our budget year to date by just shifting the marketing mix and reducing our cost per leads and cutting things in, the marketing side that did not make sense, like the, additional 30 events that we had last year that was not driving an ROI.
Got it. Maria?
Yeah, so we look at the marketing budget as a percent of the total revenue of the company. Historically, the marketing budget was less than what it is today. Today, it was somewhere in the 5%. Today, we're somewhere around 6% of revenue, and that's, I think in many cases you might be able to say that that's still on the lean side. And what we do is, just as Denise mentioned, everything gets absolutely scrutinized for a return. And so whether it's an event or a campaign or by channel, everything absolutely gets reviewed and scrutinized in terms of the return that it provides, not only to the overall program, but then obviously the overall program, the return that it provides to the company. But yeah, we look at it as a percentage of revenue for the whole company, not just the new business.
Yeah. The next question, well, the question to follow up on that is with respect to how do you target where the budget gets spent? Is it more by the markets you serve, the products, or a combination of both? The type of end customer? How do you split it if you have multiple products? How do you get your, how are you and sales collaborating with respect to, multiple products or multiple end user and markets? So Denise? Oops, did we lose Denise? May have. Oh, I think we may have lost Denise. Maria, do you want to answer?
Yeah, absolutely. We look at it by key initiatives. So, for example, if there are, product launches that are new, innovative, and things that we think will be market changing, we spend money on that. If there are initiatives that we test all the time, and so whether we're doing some type of a campaign that's intended to accelerate close rates or accelerate wins or whatever, those are the kinds of things that we test with sales. We do small tests, and then if it works, we blow it out. But it's around key initiatives, product releases, and then sales acceleration activities. Those are the types of things we tend to. And I will say that some of the larger events that we do that are they're probably about 4 big industry events, and some of them are very good in terms of returning leads. There are others that are not quite so good, but they're expensive. And we still participate because we think that those are important brand presence for key audience stakeholders. So if there's an event that is the key event for geoscientists, which is one of our core audiences, even if it doesn't return the high volume of leads that we might like, we still participate in a significant way because we feel that to that audience, it's important to see us there, to expose our messaging. And so we do make some of those trade-offs. It's not just completely a spreadsheet exercise. We do make some of those trade-offs when we think about where to spend the budget dollars as well.
Thank you. Denise, are you back?
I am back. Sorry, I was pushing the camera instead of the unmute button, so apologies for that. So very, very similar to what Maria mentioned, right? We're looking at the ROI for every event. We look at the ROI and open rate for every campaign. We look at also, on the partner side, where does it make sense also to do some of the joint marketing activities when it comes to all of the partner stuff. Our partner community, by the way, some of them have 6 to 8 events during the year, and then we're getting asked to do joint publications and things like that as well. But I think it's based on the priorities of the business. So for us in the last 30 days, it's been around our acquisition announcement, which was perfect now that having been here for 3 quarters, we will rebrand as part of one of our investments. So we actually saved our money to knowing that we were going to acquire to really save the rebranding for this next phase. And then other things that we've done, we wanted to modernize the look and feel around our branding, right? And we literally had booths for some of our events that were still done in the Pixie or Plexi stuff that took 6 people to assemble. They were expensive to ship, they were old, and we spent a chunk of money reworking something so basic as our event booth and that whole setup. So I think it's also looking at the business, kind of looking at the different priorities that we have, and depending if we have new things on the roadmap, we'll also invest jointly with product management, whether it's up for a customer advisory board or a user group as part of the overall investment.
Great, thank you. One thing to note is that at Insight Onsite we do have some capabilities to help folks in the portfolio think this stuff through. In particular, we have a lot of benchmarks, and so the questions that were being asked around percent of budgets and things like that, those things are things that we track here internally. We've asked, I think we have more than 30 companies who've filled out our various spreadsheets, and so we're able to break down the percentage of budget by programmatic spend, people spend, even within programmatic, what goes to typically to things like events, what goes typically to things like lead generation, etc. So if you're interested in those metrics, do get in touch with either Julie or Ashley or myself. We are not quite sure. We're missing a slide, but both Julie and Ashley are available, and you can find them on our website, and both of them work across the portfolio and marketing. And I know that Maria and Denise are both willing to answer questions and to share data with you. So with that, I'd like to thank Maria and Denise. Part 2, really successful and very interesting, and we look forward to talking to everybody in a month about Part 3, which will be on the subject of demand and lead generation. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.